Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here, and I was just over in Europe. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you might have seen some pictures from that, and those pictures were actually shot on this phone, the Huawei P20 Pro, which I brought along with me, was the only phone I was using while I was traveling there, and I want to go ahead and revisit the device, just kind of do a revisited review, specifically on those three cameras on the back. So with that being said, let's go ahead and revisit Huawei's latest flagship, the P20 Pro. To begin, I'd like to start with design and durability of the Huawei P20 Pro. And first things first, one of the best looking phones out right now still. That coloring on the back is so cool. They did a really good job just making it look excellent. And depending on the lighting it hits, it just kind of has a gradient to it. And believe it or not, the twilight color even looks better than this blue that I have. Now, I also dropped the Huawei P20 Pro a couple times, unfortunately. However, this is a very sturdy device with that metal on the outside. You'll see here I dropped it in this bottom right-hand corner, and there is just a bit of a blemish right there, and that is all the damage it did take. And then if I actually move along to the upper right-hand corner, unfortunately, there's another mark because I dropped it a second time, and you'll see here just a little blemish right there as well. So it seems like when it drops on the corners or the sides, this metal on the outside does a really good job at protecting the phone. And while I have it close up, take a look at some other noteworthy things. It has a bit of an indent in the power button, so you can tell the difference between the volume rockers and the power button. Also a bit of coloring, which I kind of like. Just a little subtle coloring right there. The camera does, two of the cameras stick out a little bit more than that third lens. More on that in just a little bit. And then of course, looking at the top, you will see a bit of a notch. And when it comes to the notch, realistically, it doesn't bother me aesthetically. The only reason it would ever bother me is if I had too many notifications up at the top and it started to cut them off. That is the only time I can kind of get aggravated at the notch, which doesn't happen all the time, but aesthetically, I totally get used to it. It doesn't necessarily bother me at all. Now, if the notch does happen to bother you aesthetically, you can actually get rid of it with software by just pressing hide notch right there. And you'll see when you go home, hey, it looks like the phone does not have a notch when realistically it just puts a black bar on the screen up at the top, which doesn't get rid of the problem with the notification overflow, but it does get rid of it aesthetically. And of course, something really nice about having the fingerprint scanner on the front is that you can have it flat on a table and you can just go ahead and set your fingerprint down and unlock the phone. No need to actually use the PIN, password, whatever you decide to use, and then you can go ahead and just start using your phone. Now, since the lenses do protrude out a little bit when you do have it flat on a desk, it does rock a little bit while using it. Now, this next part is something all manufacturers need to make note of, and the Huawei P20 Pro has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery inside, and look at how thin it is. It is not necessarily any noticeably thicker or thinner than any other flagship out right now, yet it has a much larger battery, and I think more manufacturers need to start doing this. I don't know why it's a trend, but big props to Huawei for including such a huge battery. To give you an example, here's a screenshot of my screen on time. You'll see I have 4% battery life left, and I have used 6 hours and 17 minutes screen on time, which is insane for me. I would say average for me is about 4 hours, 35 minutes screen on time. Anything over 5 hours will get me through a full day, and this is hitting over 6 hours. I swipe over again, you'll see 5 hours, 24 minutes, depending on how heavy the usage is. But the standby time with this battery is incredible. I could just leave it sit overnight. It's only going to trickle down not even 10%. And of course, the P20 Pro does not include any headphone jack, so you need to use the included dongle if you have 3.5 millimeter headphones. And of course, the removal of the headphone jack brings on some problems. Maybe you're at a party, can't plug into the aux cable, you don't have your dongle with you, maybe in a car, can't plug your phone in, so some of those kind of problems. But also for me, the biggest one would be not able to charge while listening to music, especially when I'm on a flight, maybe in a long car ride and I want to fall asleep to some music in my ears, specifically on flights. But luckily, when I tested it out flying to Europe, for me, battery life somewhat makes up for this issue because, of course, you can listen to music on a long flight. I fell asleep for a couple hours, listen to audiobooks, music, even watched a couple Netflix shows, and battery life still didn't drain nearly as much as other phones that I've used without a headphone jack. So obviously my personal opinion is I wish they just had a headphone jack. However, the extra battery life does somewhat make up for the inability to charge and listen to music at the same time, but having a dongle is a bit of a hassle. Moving along, let's talk about one of the biggest things on this phone, and that's the camera. Of course, it has 3 lenses on the back, and you'll notice I turned off my studio lights. It's a little dark in here right now, and I kind of wanted to show off one feature on this phone, and I'm going to snap a quick picture like so. Now, I'm actually going to switch it to night mode, and I'm going to snap a picture. I'm going to hold it as still as I possibly can. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and take a look at both of these shots. So here is the night mode shot right here. Swiping over, there is the one without night mode. And that is pretty much standard for what you're going to get from other flagships. But check out the coloring on the desk. Look at the difference. And also just how the display is about the exact same, because what happened was in regular mode, it finds the exposure from the display and pretty much darkens just about all the other things. So you'll see down in this bottom right hand corner kind of how dark it is. If I switch over to the night mode shot, it goes ahead and makes it much more light and much more realistic than if you were looking at it from your eyes. And you'll see here it's not overexposed by any means where the monitor is at all. You'll see here just about the exact same as the other shot. And this is, for me, a good example of a way to show off what night mode is capable of. And you don't necessarily need to use it during the nighttime. The triple camera on the back of the Huawei P20 Pro is easily one of the most versatile on any smartphone out right now, and arguably one of the best cameras on any smartphone right now. Huawei has a very close and exclusive partnership with the very famous Leica camera company, and you'll see even Leica branding right up at the top. Now, of course, the big thing about this phone is the 3 lenses that it has. Now, it has the regular lens, a telephoto lens for zooming without losing image quality, and Huawei's signature monochrome lens, which takes some really cool black and white shots. Now, the P20 Pro has AI built into the phone, and even the camera uses that AI. So you'll see here, if I go to scan something, it recognizes its text, and it will shoot it in a higher image quality. And you'll see how quick that goes away and shows up. It recognizes it in really quick time, and there's 19 different modes at the moment, whether it's flowers, animals, blue sky. There's so many different modes. I can actually list them on the side if you're interested. And from what I found with taking a lot of pictures on this phone is that I use AI mode about 85% of the time. So when it's on auto recognizing something, you'll see it says text. I can actually just press the X right there and it gets rid of that text option, and I can just shoot it in auto mode. I also find that I will just switch over to pro mode and leave everything on auto to just take another normal shot if I do not want those AI features. So it just kind of adjusts the picture depending on what scene you're looking at to make it better. And I find that about 85% of the time, the auto shot and using the AI makes it a better shot, but there's those random times when it doesn't. You can easily switch over to pro mode and take a second shot, or just exit out and hit capture again. Now, taking a look at some of the pictures that I've gotten all throughout Europe and just using this phone in general, and the biggest thing for me, night mode. It is fantastic. If you can stand there for about 7 seconds and hold the camera still for a shot, it will produce a really fantastic, well-balanced image. It's amazing how well it does, not only at nighttime, but even in daylight situations when you use it, it will sometimes expose everything evenly. And here's just a look at a couple of the monochrome shots I took, and those turn out very good as well. So having those 3 different lenses is great, and moving on to that telephoto lens, having a 3 times optical zoom is amazing. You get really good skyline shots, just close-ups of a lot of things further away. It does have a 5 times optical or a hybrid zoom where it'll use optical and digital zoom in one, but up to 3 times optical zoom is fantastic. Whether I'm at a trade show, want to get something on a stage, whether I'm looking out a hotel window and want to cut out some of the things below me, it's just such a really cool use of a telephoto lens, having it up to 3 times, and I miss it when I don't have it. Now the P20 Pro has the EMUI skin over Android, which adds some nice features to Android, but it also has some things that I don't like about it. One of the biggest things, and I think if they overhauled it, it would make me enjoy EMUI a lot more, is the lock screen. Now you'll see I just sent myself an email and I have a notification on my lock screen. Normally on Android, you can expand and contract notifications. All you can do on them is touch again to open. And that's the only thing. You can't expand, you can't contract, you can't hit reply on messages or emails. There's no way to act upon your notifications while you're on your lock screen. Now also, if I unlock my phone, you'll see that notification is still there in the notification tray, and I go back to my lock screen, it doesn't show up on your lock screen, whereas in stock Android, it will still continue to show up. And there's also no way to pull down the notification tray to maybe turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth straight from your lock screen. You have to actually unlock the phone, then go ahead and pull it down to see those notifications that are still there and act upon your quick settings. So that is one thing that I think if Huawei fixed in EMUI, I would really enjoy the OS a lot more. And that's kind of the biggest gripe I have about it, which might not be an issue for you. I just think it's something they need to fix. And like I said, it does add some really useful features. It has a one-handed UI mode for the keyboard or a mini screen view. You have motion controls, flip to mute, knuckle gestures as well. So if I go ahead and draw a circle, it will go ahead and cut out that part of the screen and take a screenshot. And I find that it doesn't ever think that I'm using my knuckle when I'm not. So if I go ahead and let's say I want to go ahead and draw a line across the middle here, it will load up the split screen app function, which is also very useful when trying to multitask. Also, for the sake of time, I don't want to get too heavy into this, but performance has been really good. Same as if it was just out of the box, whether I want to play a very graphic heavy intensive games such as PUBG. I want to do a lot of multitasking, go into the Play Store here. If I want to go ahead and maybe load up the clock app, go back home. I mean, it just loads up everything very quickly. It's very easy to multitask, open up the camera, snap a couple quick pictures, go back home. You'll see it's just really handling everything as expected and as it did out of the box. So all in all, the Huawei P20 Pro remains one of the best phones you can get right now. I've really enjoyed using it as my daily phone. Taking pictures is a lot of fun. Night mode makes everything so much better because it really gives you an ability to take very good shots in low light. Definitely the best low light camera out right now with that night mode. With that being said, along with performance, battery life, this phone is really good. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click that thumbs up button. Lots more to come on the P20 Pro and other devices as well, so be sure to click that subscribe button. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.